The ABC 7 News I-Team is investigating a loophole in state law that attorneys argue allows California hotels to avoid paying actual damages to guests.
Now, a state superior court judge says a case out of San Francisco is exposing the need for the outdated law to change.
ABC 7 News I-Team reporter Stephanie Sierra has the story.
One man's hotel stay in San Francisco began with a costly mistake, and his attorneys argue the hotel used this law to avoid paying the full price. What was supposed to be a fun summer getaway to San Francisco turned into a legal nightmare for Bob Sabuni. Last June, he and his friends came to the city for a weekend of Giants games. Before heading to the first game, Sabuni checked into the Marriott Marquis, located right off Mission Street. He says his room wasn't ready, so the hotel offered to hold his bags.
We went on to the game, had a great time. The Giants won.
But later that night, Sabuni came back to a big loss.
Everybody's stuff was there except mine.
Sabuni says his luggage, which included a Briggs & Riley rollaway bag, a Toomey leather backpack, an iPad Pro, a MacBook Pro, a 4-terabyte hard drive with his social security number and 7 years worth of tax documents, along with his clothes, were nowhere to be found.
The next morning, early in the morning, I did speak to the manager, who said they're looking into it, and soon found out that they had given my stuff to somebody else.
According to the court judgment, Marriott's surveillance equipment showed that afternoon a man went to the Marriott claiming that he checked his baggage but lost the claim check.
Remarkably, the Marriott let the guy walk into the back room. He pointed at my bags and said, "Those are mine." They said, "Is there any way you can prove it? Do you have tickets? Do you have ID?" He said, "No, I have none of that, but there's a computer in that computer bag." And they opened up, there was a computer, and they just handed my stuff over to this guy, and he walked out.
Frustrated with the process, Sabuni later sued Marriott in small claims court and won.
The judge awarded us $5,000.
But the story doesn't end there. Marriott then appealed the case on the grounds of a law enacted in 1872, also known as the Innkeeper's Statute, that limits a hotel's liability for guests' belongings to $1,000. Marriott won the appeal, but not fairly, according to San Francisco Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Ross, who wrote, "This is one of the rare instances where the law does not allow the court to achieve the equitable result."
He was appalled by it, obviously, as is written out clearly in the judgment.
According to the court judgment, Ross highlighted the fact the law is outdated, saying in part, this statute has not been revised to accord with the current value of luggage, clothing, and most notably, computer equipment and its data.
Prices have gone up enormously since this law was first enacted.
We brought this to Jim Wilcox, an economics professor at UC Berkeley's School of Business. He says prices of goods and services have gone up 20 to 25 times since this law was first enacted in 1872. Yet in 2022, hotels in California are only liable for items up to $1,000.
Compared to when the law was first enacted, $1,000 then would be the equivalent in real purchasing power terms, would be require a ceiling of about $25,000.
Judge Ross wrote, "One might expect Marriott to recognize the aberration and, in the interest of customer relations, to pay the judgment. Instead, Marriott appealed." The ABC 7 News I-Team reached out to the Marriott, but hotel management was unable to provide an on-camera interview and declined to comment. Sabuni valued his stolen items to be worth around $8,300. But according to Marriott's trial brief, the hotel was only legally liable for $500 due to this statute.
It needs to kind of modernize with the times. You have an industry that has a get out of jail free card.
The Innkeeper's Statute hasn't been amended in 42 years, leaving consumers like Sabuni paying the price.
For me, it's a matter of holding them accountable for the safety of customers and that not giving them this shield.
The court ordered Marriott to pay Sabuni just over $1,500 for a mistake made by their own staff. Meanwhile, accounting his losses, Sabuni says he's spent well over $10 grand just trying to fight this case. The question now is it time for the law to change? For the I-Team, Stephanie Sierra, ABC 7 News.
And if you'd like to see a story investigated, contact the ABC7 News I-Team. Go to abc7news.com/I-Team or call 1-888-40-I-Team.